I'm Mary Jo Allenbaugh, the auditor from Clay County. I have with me today my first deputy, Erica Stalka. She'll be my little remote control. What we did today was, when Pam and I discussed doing this, I said, oh gosh, I've been doing this for 27 years, been in the auditor's office, first deputy for 20 years. This is my 7th year as auditor. And budgets are pretty much routine. I've done them pretty much by myself for at least 20 years or more. So I thought, this is simple. Spent a few hours, wrote a few comments down, presented it to Erica, and I got the, what the heck are you talking about look? You got the 4, and you got the 3, and you got the 1, and you got the 16, and it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So until you actually go through a budget, it doesn't make any sense. And if you have a background in accounting, it doesn't make any sense. This is all single entry. It's not double entry. This is all very, very basic, but it works. Whoever put this together to begin with knew what they were doing, but the Gateway has simplified it. I just want to tell you that up front. It has simplified it. They've had their growing pains, but it works. It brings your totals forward. You don't have to continually do the same thing over and over again. You don't have to revisit from form to form. So what we're going to do today is what I call Budget 101, and we're literally going to take you from the financial worksheet through the 4B, and the papers that I've passed out to you are all those figures, and if you'd like to follow along with us and put those numbers in as we go along, we will finish a budget in less than an hour. So, if you will start with me on Budget 101, with the handouts that you have, the first thing I want you to do is just lay the top one aside that says Welcome to Budget 101, and underneath it you will find a form called the Current Year Financial Worksheet. And first and foremost, before you do anything else, you need to print a copy of your 2013-14 budget calendar. This was sent out by DLGF on May the 10th. I'm sure you all have it. I use this as a checklist, and so if you haven't printed it but you store it in media, then make sure you get this. This will really guide you, help you with a lot of the things you're going to do. You want to sit down with the president of your council, or if you're confident that you have all of these numbers or dates in place, take your budget, decide when it's going to be passed, and back your way into the process of advertising. That way you won't miss your dates. Set the date of passage, set the date of your hearing, then move backwards to your advertisement. You won't miss your advertisement that way. Many people have put a lot of work into a budget that doesn't fly because your advertising dates were missed. So that's one of the things you want to do first and foremost. Okay. The next thing you need to do is make friends with your software people. If you are a new auditor, and I'm sure many of you are, and you're going to be working budgets for the first time, your software people are your best friend. You need to get with them, get all of the training they have available in the software. They can assist you on many, many of the phases that you need to go through. Get to know your field rep. I've been doing this for a long time, and every year I spend several hours emailing back and forth with my field rep with DLGF to make sure that I have all the data right before I press the final button. So those are two resources that you definitely need to explore. Software primarily. Get some training. Tell them you're new. You may have a person in your office who's done budgets for years, but as the auditor, you're ultimately responsible. Whether you have a consulting firm that does your budget for you, uploads and takes care of it for you, you're the person they're going to ask the questions of. So you need to know how to do this budget, or you at least need to know how it worked. Okay. So if you have any new funds this year, the first thing you need to do is customize your funds, departments, revenue codes. Gateway is a great resource for that. If you get in, you start your budget, you realize you've missed something, you can go back and fix it. So don't worry too much about that at the time. But the first thing we're going to do is go to the budget form menu. And we are going to begin with the current year financial worksheet. And you're going to be looking at Clay County. I'm so glad they got this thing updated. We've been playing around in this for quite a long time, but just the other day it went down, it came back up, and voila, it's 2014. So we're really excited about that. It made this presentation a lot easier. If you go into your current year financial worksheet, you will find that line 1 is pre-populated with your budget from last year. So it makes things a lot simpler for you. It's already there, and it makes it easier to balance. And the ladies earlier discussed some of the things you're going to need for these forms. Well, here it is. This form is what's going to migrate to the Form 4B. So a lot of that data, you're only going to put it in one time. You're going to get together your encumbrances, and those are encumbrances from 2012 that you moved to 2013 encumbered appropriations for spending. And for today's purposes, demonstration, we have entered $75,000. So if you'd like to, you can enter all of these figures, or you can just use this little key, and we'll tell you how we're going to do that. Everybody has additional appropriations, so line 3A are those additional appropriations, and those are the ones that you have processed January 1 through June the 30th and have already been approved. You're going to enter those. Now today we're working exclusively in the general fund because it's really the one that has the most sources of revenue and all of the different accounts, locations, and departments. Now when you go to line 3B, for our purposes, we rarely have a reduction in appropriation. So we're going to enter 0 for that. Line 4 are adjustments or non-appropriated disbursements, things that you've made in your budget in 2013, January 1 through June the 30th. For today's purposes, we're using $39,000. Okay. Now, line 5, once you hit save, it will calculate that for you. There's your total, already in there. Line 6, those are the January 1 through June the 30th disbursements. I don't care what kind of software you have, everybody has a location budget, a ledger of appropriation disbursements, a report of that nature that you can collect all of those departments within the general fund, strike a balance on June the 30th, and it will reflect in a column the disbursements January 1 through June the 30th. That's what you're going to put in there. For today's purposes, we've put $1.9 million. And then line 7 then, once you save, calculates that total. Line 8 are the reductions. We had none in Clay County, so we're going to put nothing. Line 10 is the projected additional appropriations necessary July 1st through December the 30th. This is where you as the auditor have to have some sense of the needs of your funds. In the general fund, traditionally, our sheriff always has to come back for overtime or holiday pay. We know that's going to happen. Happens every year. They argue with him about it at budget time. They reduce the figure. Fall comes, all the holidays show up. He's got to come back for an additional. So you know something is going to be asked for. Or if you're one of those counties that the council's taken a hard line and said absolutely no additionals, well, maybe you can put 0 in there. For our purposes, I put $100,000. Okay, then line 11, levy excess not transferred prior to June 30th. Well, if you got a notice that you had a levy excess and you didn't get it put in there, put it in there now. Put it in this line item. All right, line 12. Temporary loans outstanding as of June the 30th. Well, it's not at all uncommon in my county, in order to keep our cash balance alive, that we borrow from fund to fund. We very rarely go outside the county to borrow, but we do borrow from fund to fund to make it through from one settlement to the next. So we borrowed $1 million from our Cume Capital Development, which we will be paying back by December the 30th at December settlement. So on line 12, we're going to put that $1 million. And we're going to also put in there that it came from Cume Capital Development. Temporary loans not included in lines 2 or 3, that's line 13. Well, we don't have any of those. You may have some. I think that would be kind of unlikely, but okay. Line 14 are those loans to be paid in the first 6 months of the ensuing year. So if you had some type of fund-to-fund loan or some type of obligation that you're not going to be able to pay back by the end of the year, you're going to put that here. You're also going to put what fund it came from. And as we were told earlier, you do have to have approval to do that. So keep that in mind. Line 15 then is the June 30th cash balance, including investments. Well, that's pretty simple. You just go to your fund balance report, your fund balance sheet. It's in your software. Put in your fund, put in your date. That's your cash balance. If you keep your investments outside of that cash balance, you'd be sure you include those. So for our purposes today, $800,000. Line 7, net taxes due, general fund less amount collected at June settlement. Well, we're in general fund. We're going to look at June settlement. We're going to look at our max levy, or max levy for the general fund, and we're going to take that figure, reduce it by the amount we settled in June, property taxes only, and that's going to be our figure. And for our purposes today, we're putting in $1.1 million. You can, now if you see the little asterisk in the note, the current tax levy is found on the budget order and pre-populated on Gateway Form 3. So if you don't really know where that figure for that is, you can look at your original budget order, or you can pop into Form 3 here on the Gateway, and it will tell you what that levy amount is. So that will help you with that. And that note's already on your form. And that, we also have a line 7. That does not appear on the Gateway. Oh yeah, it does now. Oh yeah, it doesn't appear on your printed form. We just added it on there. It also doesn't migrate to the Form 4B, so you will have to manually enter this, so you might want to keep track of that. All right. Now you've finished your current financial worksheet. So we are going to go on to our Form 1. So if you want to put that aside, move to Form 1. What's that? Oh, yeah. Now, Erica reminded me now, you're going to do this current financial worksheet for every fund, whether it's levied or not. Some of you may not want to do that. I know Pam has a problem with that. We all have lots and lots of funds to do, but this gives your council, once you have this information, you put all this over into the 4B, it gives your council an idea of where they're at, and they need to know where they're at. So now we're going to go to Form 1. If you would lay that aside. All right. For most of us, and I would say probably all of us, your software generates an approved Form 1 that you can distribute. And you will distribute this Form 1 to every department within every fund. So general fund has multiple departments. You know, you have your auditor, your treasurer, recorder, all of those regular ones. You go to reassessment. They're going to have possible different departments in there. Yeah, every fund has departments, and some of them only have one department, but you have to have a Form 1 for every one of those. For the purposes of our demonstration today, we are entering in the county general, since there are multiple funds, we're going to enter the entire rounded budget in the auditor's department only, because that will speed things up. And just to make myself feel good, we're going to put it all under my salary. And it's going to be $5 million. Okay. And we also have a sample of the Form 1, and I think you, if you're new auditors, you may not be familiar with this, but this was printed out for you, and you have that in your packet. Okay? So once those are all done, you're going to give those out to everybody in your departments, and I had a little note on Form 1s, but I guess the thing I want to tell you is the software should allow you to print, I found it, budget Form 1 for all funds and locations. Distribute Form 1s to all elected officials or department heads who are responsible for preparing budget requests. These forms are due back to you before the Thursday following the first Monday in August. This is August the 8th, 2013. This is not a suggestion. It's Indiana Code 36-2-5-9. And in my county, anyone who does not have his or her budget submitted in time will have their 2014 budget entered exactly as their 2013 budget was approved. No exceptions. Stand firm. You are not their mommy. So that's a little something to tell you about that. We're going to go on to our Form 2, and that is your reported miscellaneous income. You're going to prepare one of these for every single fund. The general fund is probably the hardest one you're going to do because it has so many sources of income. The revenue codes, which are the first column, are pre-populated from your prior year gateway. So if you're a new auditor and you don't quite understand this, you will find probably all of your revenue funds already pre-populated, those codes and those titles in this form. If they're not, then you'll need to go back, find that revenue code, and enter it before you can put that revenue in. All of your software will contain an estimated revenue report. Put June the 30th in, run that estimated revenue report, go back a year, run an estimated revenue report for January 1 through December 31st of 2012. You may want to go back a few more years for comparison purposes to do some of these estimations, but always be conservative. You can always change this if the council insists, but you're the one who knows how the revenue is coming in, nobody else. So let's start at the top. First, I have financial institution tax, and this is half of the 2013 certified distribution. On your estimated revenue form, the fund report that you printed out of your software, if you already distributed the first half, you know the second half is going to be exactly the same amount of money. So for our purposes, we're going to put in $8,900. And then for all of 2014, you need to keep in mind whether you're trending up or down on this. And House Bill 1018 is going to make a small reduction in the amount of certification in 2014. So keep that in mind. There has been some legislation that is going to affect that. If you were expecting huge increases, you may not see them. If you have traditionally in the last few years seen a decline, predict the decline. For this purpose, we're putting in $16,000. The next revenue that I have is the motor vehicle aircraft excise tax distribution. Well, you already settled that in June, so you need to look back. I mean, are you trending toward having a higher distribution in your spring settlement than you do in your December settlement? Well, if you always have a higher one, then maybe you're okay to increase it just a little bit over what you distributed in June. Check prior years. Are you trending up? Are you trending down? Predict it in that manner. And for our purposes today, we put in $335,000. I'm sorry, we put $170 for June through December, and we put for the year 2014, we put $335,000. We're going to move on to Cadget PTR, and this is certified to us through the state. DLGF will send us those figures. Last year, I believe we got them on August the 8th, so that should give you time to get these in. And so we are just applying those based on the distributions. Half of the 2013 certified for the July through December is $182,000, and then we're just going to pluck a number based on our prior distributions for next year. Hopefully by August the 8th we will have that certification and we can put an exact number in there. Then we're going to go on next to inheritance tax, and we've been informed that inheritance tax was repealed by House Bill 1001, so I would recommend 0 in both columns. So some of us had already predicted some inheritance tax revenue. It ain't coming, don't expect it. So moving on to state and federal grant distributions, and that's it's unique to each county depending upon your grants handled within the general fund. We have 40 child support, and that's the only one we have, so it's pretty simple to come up with our distribution on that. And we're putting in $75,000 for the 6 months and $150,000 for 2014. And then we have commercial vehicle excise, or CVET as we call it, and that is figured just like FIT. It's half of the certified 2013 distribution. Do your trending. Are you up? Are you down? Where are you headed? And make your prediction for next year on the same manner. Going to the next tab, we have license and permits. In Clay County, we don't have any license and permits. We have no zoning in Clay County. So if you want to come to our house, it's pretty much anything you want to do as long as you stay 2 miles outside of the city of Brazil. So we don't have that, but I'm sure in your county you would have revenue codes. You're going to use the same protocol, predict. You're going to have to just kind of look out there and see what the trend is. We're going to move on to find our charges for services. Same thing, you're going to look back a few years, you're going to look at how your revenue stream is going this year, and you're going to enter it appropriately for July 1st through December 31st, and for all of 2014. For our purposes, we have recorder services, and we have sheriff services. Next tab is fines, forfeitures, and fees, and that's where I have our other court and clerk receipts. Same thing, see where your revenues have been coming from, where they seem to be headed, and enter in the same manner. For demonstration purposes, $70,000 for July through December, $140,000 January through December of 2014. Then we're going to go to other receipts. Earnings on investments, they're now reduced to being considered a miscellaneous income because obviously none of us make any earnings, but we do have a little bit of money coming in, so we're going to put a little bit down there, not much. And those other receipts are those things that don't fit in the revenue codes that have been provided for you. So we're actually entering $85,000 and $170,000 on that one. And having done that, you're going to make sure you save, always save. If you get out of these forms and you haven't saved, you get to do it all over again. So I've done that several times, so you do learn eventually. So this is all stored. Now you've done your financial worksheet, you've done your estimate of miscellaneous revenues. You are about halfway through getting ready to do your advertisement. Aren't you excited? You never thought this was going to happen, did you? Okay, now we're going to go to the Form 4A. I do not have a copy of that for you for demonstration purposes. Erica's just simply going to pop that little dude up here. We're going to show you one of the awesome things I love about Gateway. You have all of your proposed budgets in there. You're going to go up here to this little click here to insert, and it is going to bring those numbers forward for you. You do not have to enter them again. And now we're done with Form 4A. We're going to be sure we save that. And we're going to move on to the Form 4B, or the dreaded 16-line statement, which isn't really 16 lines anymore. It's much bigger than that. And we're going to come up here. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our net assessed value. On July 1st, your assessor should have sent you some good numbers for you to work with. And at that point in time, you should have applied all of your deductions. And then you should have looked at this figure and said, well, gosh, I'm going to have to adjust that a little, so you're going to want to reduce that assessed value a little bit to allow for those people that are going to come in and file for exemptions, and property's going to change, and so you're going to be cautiously thinking, I'm just going to pull a number out of the air that's somewhat related to the number I have, and so for our purposes today, we're going to put in $838 million, but you got to have that number up there because that's what you're going to base your tax rate on. So having entered that, now we're going to go to that magical click here to insert button. Guess what? You're almost there. Okay. In Gateway, you click that little magic button, and then you can move to line 10. Line 7. Line 7. You're going to move to line 7. And on line 7, you are going to enter that figure that you had on your financial worksheet that you entered, or you're going to recalculate it either way. At the bottom, right here. Erica's going to copy that. And there you are. And make sure you save as you go along. Okay. Now you can see that your actual cash balance is represented, your taxes to be collected, you've got those in there now. Your miscellaneous income has been brought forward from your Form 2, and it's going to total all that for you. It's going to show the funds required, 8.6, and the funds that you have available, 4.5. So you're going to have a net amount to be raised for expenses to December 31st of the incoming year, $4.156 million. Now, at this point in time, you can make a choice. You can have Gateway do the calculation on what you're going to need for your operating balance and things of that nature to take you to the bottom. I rarely do that. My counsel's pretty weird about wanting to play with their operating balances in order to get their budgets to balance. So at that point in time, I click that I want to make my own calculations. So for today's purposes, in line 11, we're going to enter an operating balance of $800,000. Which makes our amount to be raised by tax levy $4,956,355. Pardon me? Okay, and that is 10 plus 11, line 10 plus 11. On line 13A, the PTRC from local option income tax, and that for Clay County is the amount certified on the 2014 Cadget report that we talked about earlier. So that's going to be in there. You're going to enter that. Oh, I do want to make a correction. I think we probably shouldn't put that in the line. Okay, stop. I'm going to move on. Do put that in here. All right. If you are an operating Lowett County, and we are not, so I don't have a lot of knowledge of that, you won't have anything in 13A, but you will have your operating Lowett in 13B. And that, again, is certified to you. So that, for our purposes today, taking 13A or 13B from 12, net amount to be raised by tax levy is now $4,610,355. Okay? And the levy excess applied to the current budget, you will hear if you have levy excess that you need to apply. That will be issued to you from DLGF. And you can enter that in here. So that makes our net amount to be raised on line 16, the $4,610,355. Okay. Now at this point in time, you don't have to do that tax rate to get your Form 3, your advertisement, but you will go back and calculate that later. Okay. The Form 3. The first thing you want to do after saving 4B is you want to fill in your estimated maximum levy. And of course, the ladies before us have explained very well how you come up with your levy amount. And we usually in Clay County, if we're kind of ahead of them giving us the information, we 2.6 to 3% increase per year. That's pretty good. And probably not as accurate, probably closer to 2.6%. So we've kind of rounded our maximum levy to be 3.2799. On our Form 3, we're going to fill that in first, and then we're going to fill in our meeting information, which is critical. You have to have the date and time of both your public hearing and your budget passage. Okay? And Erica's going to put those in. And let me stress again, you want to make sure you put big enough numbers in there that you can work your budget. Don't limit any of your funds on the maximum amount they're requesting. It was called a wish list, and that's exactly what this first run is a wish list. You'll find that you probably exceed your maximum levy by a pretty good amount of money. Don't let that scare you. Just need to get it up there where we can work with some numbers. Okay. Now you're going to come down to column 1, and you will see that all of those funds, if you want to run on down there, Erica, not just our levied funds, but all of our home rule funds, everything we have, all of those are in there. In a perfect world, we would have done a financial worksheet, Form 1s, Form 2, Form 4A and 4B for every one of those funds. All those numbers would be here when we go up and press the magic button that says click here to insert Form B. And this takes a few minutes because it's collecting a lot of data. In this case, only one fund, but it is doing that. Then you're going to go over to column 3, and you're going to do the same thing. And that takes a few minutes. Okay. In column 3, that's the excess levy appeals. And if you feel that you are able to make an excess levy appeal, you probably need to get with your DLGF field representative. There was a great memo that went out, I think, in March about that. There are a lot of things with circuit breaker and a lot of different information that you need to know before you attempt to do an excess levy appeal. It's not just because we need more money than we're allowed to collect. It just doesn't work that way. So that's something you really need to work with the professionals on. Column 5, I'm sorry, is your current tax levy, and that is pre-populated for you. That's one of those things you don't have to go back and look up anymore. So now you've got your Form 3 is done. So you do these steps, and then you're ready to advertise. And this is your advertisement, and it must be advertised 2 times, with the second advertisement at least 7 days before your budget hearing. So be sure and get to that budget calendar and count this off and make sure you've done this well. Okay, now comes the fun part. Meeting with your counsel. Each county is unique in their approach to meeting with the office holders and agencies in their budget hearings. In my county, the council meets for first reading and hearings with elected office holders and department heads all in 2.5 days. This is an intense meeting that results in a lot of dialogue and information in a very short period of time. I understand there are other counties that meet throughout the summer to gather information, and they just simply meet at their public hearing to kind of finalize their thoughts. This is something you need to discuss with your counsel. But before you ever sit down with your counsel, you need to get them all of the information on all of the Form 1s in whatever format. A lot of software has a lot of budget information, a lot of budget reports that you can get to them. Erica and I do a lot. We export them and then we email them to everybody in PDF format so that they have them prior to the meeting. You also need them to get them the information on your income so they know what your revenue streams are, what's a realistic picture of where your county is financially, so that they have that information. My counsel has a tendency to come in and the first thing they say is, what do we have to cut? That seems to be the only question they have, and that's their target. If I say, well, you're so far over the maximum levy, then that's their goal, to cut that much money. But hopefully you have a counsel that looks at both sides of it, not just the expenditure, but the income part too. So that'll be something you'll need to do. Each county, okay. I'm going to go to my notes now. And I want to reiterate, getting all the information to your counsel. And then the Form 4, of course, is the final document that they adopt after all of the hearings. And one of the things you have to do after you have all your hearings and your budget passage, you're going to go back to your Form 1. Okay, and in the Form 1, if you go to where we did our single entry for the auditor, okay, and you're in personal services, which is the only place we have anything entered, and you can either at this point in time, if the $5 million was approved, you can enter that by just transferring that over using the copy button, or if the council decided they did not want to do that, then you will manually enter the amount that was selected and do that. You will do that in every department. If they pass the budget as it was presented, you'll just copy them all over. If not, you'll go in and you'll adjust each tab: personal services, supplies, service and charges, capital outlays, debt service. You will make those changes. Once you get all of that done, you're going to save that, and you're going to go back to your budget form menu. You're going to go to your 4A. Having made all the changes on the Form 1, you are going to go to your click here and insert Form 1 adopted amounts, and you are going to update that using the click here to insert. You are going to save that. Do what? Okay. Then you're going to go back to the form menu again, and you're going to go to your budget estimate, financial statement, and proposed tax rate. And here, you are going to go here, and you are going to update using the click here button. Those numbers are, keep in mind line 7, you're still going to have to enter that again. And if you are calculating yourself, you can copy some of those numbers over, or you can just choose to enter everything from line 11 down. There's no undo on this, I can tell you that. But when you get all done and you have your net amount of taxes to be raised, you are going to take the total net amount of dollars and divide that by your total net assessed value, and that will give you your tax rate. Now, once you get your tax rate and you save one more time, then you're going to go back and you're going to go to the Form 4. All of that information will be drawn from the 4B onto the Form 4 so that it's ready for signature by council. One thing I did not mention at the beginning on your Form 1s is a lot of the software, possibly all the software that we have for auditors, has an opportunity to upload or use a flat file upload to enter all of the data from the Form 1s that you've entered into your budget software directly into the gateway, so that saves you yet another step. And then go back to the budget menu. Oh, she has the Form 4, and you can see that we didn't put the tax rate in, but it will actually pick up the adopted budget, the adopted tax levy, and the adjusted tax rate. And the tax rate, something that didn't used to be in there, but it is in there now. And it makes perfect sense why they wanted to put that in. But you're done, you're ready for signature, and you are good to go. Now, one of the key things you need to watch out for is one of the beautiful things I love about these gateway forms, that it gives you the opportunity always to edit as long as you haven't submitted. But if you haven't done any of these steps and completed them correctly, it will tell you you are not ready to submit. So that's a good, if it's telling you you're not ready to submit, you've either forgotten something, or you didn't enter your PIN for signature, or something isn't calculating properly, you've omitted a portion of the budget. But it will tell you when you're ready, and the sense of satisfaction when everything goes green and you can send that in is just amazing when you have all of those funds balanced. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, how you do Budget 101. And I would encourage all of you to get with an auditor who has been in the business for a while, or someone who really enjoys doing budgets. Get their number, make a contact, make them your mentor. For you new people, it's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. It's just start at the beginning. When you get to the end, stop. And that's what I'll do. Thank you.